Hello everyone, this is Carissa here back together with my partner Elaine. We are here to do our project analysis series again.
So another talk of the town, which is actually the next upcoming development, also going to preview very soon.
Right.
So today we're going to talk about Penrith. So the thing is that we have actually thought of something interesting that we want to discuss about today, which is the land size. Because we know that, I think you probably have heard a lot on us talking about land size of the development. Bigger land size naturally will be better, especially for own stay.
Yep.
Bigger land size means you have got more landscaping, you have got more facilities.
Yes.
So naturally it will be better. But then we also want to understand, why do some projects stand out more than the others? This is something that we thought that it would be interesting to discuss about for today's content.
So is it really only about the land size that is going to bring out the profits or
Contribute to a good
yes.
development.
So we will also be touching on certain points and what exactly are the good factors that will attribute to a good land plot.
So what are the attributes? First thing first, of course, will be developers. Some of the clients especially will be quite concerned about who is the developer of the project.
Yes.
Because they know that if it's a reputable, renowned developer, naturally the finishes, the quality will be actually very nice and very decent.
So the communal area as well. People want to look at, if I'm staying in a own stay place, right? I will want the communal space to be very grand, very nice.
Then of course the next thing will be just now what we have discussed, what we have talked about, the decent land size. And of course what we have always touched on in our analysis video will be the layout of the development. And last but not least, just now we mentioned about whether or not the development can stand out. So the visibility of the project is something that is commonly talked about recently, especially in the recent years. There's quite a bit of newly TOP developments. And some of the developments actually make more profit, can profit more as compared to the rest. Why is that so? So something to discuss on today.
Before we go into that, then probably we have to talk about Penrith's location first.
To understand where exactly is Penrith. This is the actual location. If you look at this, the one in yellow over here is actually Penrith. But actually, if I look at this, the location seems to be quite attractive.
Yeah, because they have markets all surrounded with markets.
Okay, so the main road is Margaret Drive, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we have quite a bit of HDBs surrounding us. So I think in terms of amenities-wise, they also want to support the HDB. So
the heartlands.
Yes. So in terms of amenities-wise, I don't think it's a big issue like 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 Road Market. There's a lot of food there as well.
There's
and then we have Margaret Drive Hawker Centre.
ABC Food Centre, which is also very close proximity. I think it is actually a very mature town. Surrounding, we have a lot of amenities. Okay, so that's where Penrith is along Margaret Drive.
The distance to the MRT station. So if you look at this, right, Penrith is just about maybe a few minutes walk, close proximity to Queenstown MRT station. So next we will have the artist impression.
Two tall towers. So later we will show you the elevation chart. Is actually 40-story high. So when I actually visited the Showflat, one of our colleagues was actually sharing with us that the distance, block to block distance, if I'm not wrong, is about 60 meters. Actually, that's a super good distance.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's for the artist impression.
Of course, we have the project info as well. This is developed by Hong Leong and 𝐽𝐽 Land, District 3. Total number of units is 462. 2 towers of 40 stories, ranging from 2 to 4 bedrooms. So they don't have 5 bedrooms for this.
Also don't have 1 bedroom.
Oh yes, correct. So this is the part where we are going to touch on, because if you look at this, the land size for Penrith is 9,552 square meters. So later we will also touch on whether in terms of big, small land size, how they actually perform. Then of course we have the Childhood Development Centre as well. Basement, 228 units for car park.
It's 2 levels of multi-story car park, but this multi-story car park is not like a standalone multi-story car park. It's actually very well designed. It's just like underneath the facilities there. So you don't really see the multi-story car park. Just that when you drive in, right, it's actually, I think, at ground level, then you probably can ramp up to level 1 or level 2. Something like that. Take a look at the Showflat, then you can understand more. So estimated TOP 2029, vacant possession 2031. That's for the project information. So we take a look at the site plan right now. Nothing much to pick on. 2 towers, like I mentioned, block to block distance is actually very decent. And then we also have this tennis court.
Of course, you have your pool.
Be actually situated in the center.
So you're saying the car park is actually underneath the pool?
Yes.
So it's, okay, interesting.
So you can't see from the exterior of it.
I think something to take note, most of the stacks, right, they come in 2 different facings. So let's say, for example, stack 10 and step 4 are the 2 bedrooms. So they have two different
2 bed, 1 bath.
facing. So if let's say you are looking at any of these, you can have clearer view of where exactly you are facing.
Especially the 2 bed, 1 bath.
Yep.
Usually developers will just place it at the external facing.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's most often blocked in a way. So this one, I think minimally you have got the pool view, which is the internal facing.
Or if not, then this side will be the GCB view.
A little bit of unobstructed.
Yes, we will show you exactly where the views, where do they look out to.
Later we show you. Next. Unit type is actually, just now as you mentioned, is from 2 bedroom to 4 bedroom. We don't have the smaller of the 1 bed, which I think is okay because in this area there is quite a number of developments. So we also don't want to have too much competition in terms of the 1 bedroom for rental. So minimally with 2 bed, 1 bath. Later we show you the floor plan, 614 square feet. And I think in terms of the unit mix, the smaller unit type actually contributes to 33%. Very healthy because I think recently we did something, it was like a 50%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Watch back our first video, you will know it. That development has got quite a heavy percentage on the smaller unit type, which we thought that it may affect a little bit more on the competition in terms of rental. So for this one, it's 33%. For the 3 bedroom, it's actually 42%. And then 4 bedroom is 25%. Good mix of the different unit type. This is the elevation chart.
So 2 blocks of 40 stories.
So this is the part that we want to touch on a little bit more to show you the views. So this is where Penrith is. Just now we mentioned this is actually the Margaret Drive. Surrounding Penrith, there is actually a couple of HDB estate, which is over here and over here. There may be a little bit of a concern to understand that when Penrith TOP, will Penrith be able to differentiate itself from the midst of the HDB cluster?
Yeah, because I think the HDBs here are mostly the newer ones. Let's say you talk about Skyview at Dawson, they are quite pretty.
Very nice HDB,
very nice HDBs. So in terms of whether will buyer be able to even differentiate this is a private or this is a HDB, because they are actually situated in the midst or in between a cluster of HDBs, a cluster of nice HDBs.
So in terms of the exit strategy, when you're in the midst of the HDB, it's also something which is good because you will be able to naturally gain attention from the upgraders. But just that today our discussion point is more of like, we want to use case study to show that if let's say a project is a little bit more difficult to differentiate itself, so what could be the effects of that? So now we will just quickly run through again. Over here, next to it is actually the Queenstown Primary School. I think this is something that is quite good to have it because the school is actually lower rise.
Creates a distance.
Yeah, a little bit of distance to the next cluster of HDB.
Correct.
Just now as you mentioned, because the cluster of HDB are the newer ones, so you can see that it's actually of the higher rise HDB as well, 24 story. So that's the thing. Before we touch on the case study, we want to also understand the views, the different views that just now you mentioned.
So the north view of Penrith, which is over here, is actually facing the GCB area. And of course, there is school.
If it's like maybe 30th plus, I think you have very nice unblocked views.
Yes, exactly. Actually, in fact, over the north side, right? The north side is actually 4 stories and also 2 stories of Rainbow Centre. Right in front of here. It's just more of here that is actually facing more of HDB, which is 24 stories. So let's say if you're looking at the facing over here, which is the south, then probably might have to go for even higher floor because the one in front is 24 stories.
So that's the view that we're talking.
So now let's go to the case study.
Yes. From the start of our video, we were talking about the land size and also how the project can actually stand out and whether or not that will actually affect anything in terms of later when it's TOP, in terms of the demand and the resale value in a way. So we're taking one case study, 2 developments to compare. One is 𝐿𝐵𝐺 and one is actually Cambridge Hill Residence. So why are we taking these 2 developments? Now, first thing first is that these 2 developments are both in District 5. So I think that that's actually a very fair comparison. But for 𝐿𝐵𝐺, in terms of land size, it's actually 16,000 square meter. And then for Cambridge, right, it's actually 29,000.
Close to 30,000. So it's about almost double.
So 𝐿𝐵𝐺, smaller land size. But Cambridge is bigger land size. But besides the land size, right, there's another difference to these 2 developments is that 𝐿𝐵𝐺, right, is actually along AYE. And it's something that you will not miss. As long as you're along this road, right, you will not miss the very high-rise development. If I'm not wrong, I think it's 36 stories or thereabout. So because it's quite prominent, it's something that you will not miss when you actually drive past the road. And that's actually a very big main road. It's the expressway, you always see the development when you drive past that. But for Cambridge, right, Cambridge is along South Buona Vista Road,
correct,
right?
South Buona Vista Road.
But this one is actually a small road. This road is only for residents who live around there. In a way, 𝐾𝐮 Residences, that time when we were marketing the development, right, it's actually a very nice, serene environment. Very nice for own stay because that's where you want to be away from the noise and the city and whatsoever. So it's actually a very big plot of land size. But the only thing is that it is not so visible when you are along the main roads.
The key thing here is one is visible, small land size, visible, very prominent. The other one is
Big land size, less prominent. So let us take a look at the data in terms of the transactions done for 𝐶𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻 and 𝐾𝐮. So for 𝐾𝐮 Residences, it's actually large land size, low visibility, prominent. If we look at the average profit, this is actually under profitability. Average profit for all unit types, we are looking at averagely about 180 to the highest 610,000. But for 𝐶𝐿𝐴𝐻, although the land size is actually much smaller, but because it's very prominent,
yes,
everybody can see and you won't miss it.
it basically naturally gains traction, I would say.
When you look at the profitability for all unit types, we are looking at average of 370,000 to the highest actually 900,000. It's actually a very big difference.
Exactly. Talk about 300,000 difference in terms of profitability. I think next we should zoom down into own stay area. Let's say if we talk about a 3-bedroom, that would be a better comparison.
I think 𝐾𝐮 caters very much for own stay buyers, right? So we actually pull out the transaction for just purely 3-bedroom. So the earlier one was actually for all unit type,
Average
and this one is
of
actually
all.
for 3-bedroom. And we can also see that in terms of the profitability for 3-bedroom, highest is actually 288,000 for 𝐾𝐮. But if let's say we were to look at 𝐶𝐿𝐴𝐻, it's actually 700 over 1,000. So again, it is a very big difference in terms of the profitability. So what we want to derive from this case study is to really highlight that land size is not something that means everything. Often we talk about bigger the better, but land size has to also come with a prominent location.
Prominent location to buyers, like we mentioned earlier, it naturally gains traction.
Not prominent location, sorry. Prominent
Appearance.
how it's situated.
Appearance,
Because
right,
location
yeah.
can mean like our central is actually a prominent location, the outskirts is not so prominent. It's actually
Correct.
where you are situated in whichever location,
Yes.
how you are situated in the midst of your neighbors and surroundings.
Exactly, exactly. These case study actually shows to us that not only the land size that we need to look at, we also need to look at whether this project, is it visible to buyers or not. These are things that I think we need to take note as well.
Also something that as a buyer, if let's say today you are looking at resale developments around your area, there are bound to have certain developments that you will just remember in mind one. Oh, you know, somewhere near my house there's a couple of this development. But there will also be some developments, it's actually there but you don't really know it. So this is the thing that we're trying to compare the visibility and how prominent, like I mentioned just now, when it's situated in that area and in comparison to the rest of your surrounding.
So if you're keen to look at the Showflat, or if you like what we shared earlier, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Next, we will go to the layout analysis.
Maybe we want to conclude a little bit on Penrith after we did all the comparison in terms of the land size and how it's situated. So just to sum up a little, Penrith, it is not the biggest land size that we are talking about, but it's still decent. It's just a little bit of the concern because in the midst of your surrounding, there are a lot of HDB cluster, which is good because you will gain traction of the HDB upgraders. But if you are not in the vicinity, if you don't stay nearby in the vicinity, you may tend to miss out Penrith in terms of where it's situated because it's cluttered around the HDB cluster.
Yes.
This is something that we want to highlight and to take note if you are looking at the development. But then again, coming back into the development, the project itself, because the next thing that we're going to analyze is actually the layout and the price. We derive that they have got very nice layouts, and also the price point, right, is also something that seems to be really not too bad. So we come into this now. So the layout analysis.
So we start from the 2-bedroom. So 2 layouts, one is actually the 614 square feet. This is a 2-bed, 1-bath, traditional layout. You also have a space for dining.
2-bed, 1-bath, you will often see that the kitchenette is just
Long.
straight from the
Yeah,
long kitchenette
long
from your doorway. So this kind of L-shaped open concept, I actually kind of like it because it will make your kitchen more spacious. So just now you also mentioned, even for 2-bed, 1-bath, we have got 2 different facing. One is actually the internal pool facing, and then one is actually the external facing.
Let's say if you look at this, actually for the 2-bed, 1-bath is Sec 4 and also Sec 10. Sec 4 is actually facing the Queenstown Baptist Church, which is 2 stories. So that means here there will be quite unblocked. And then here, of course, you get to enjoy the pool view as well. So Sec 10 is actually pool view. So I think in terms of placement of the units, the developer did quite a good job. So be it which sec you are choosing, you still have some views in a way.
Your views are not compromised, even you are a smaller unit type.
So next we will then talk about surrounding, but I think we need to first understand surrounding supply. We have like got some other newer developments, like for example Sterling, because Sterling is the newest one
to compare in a way lah.
Before we go into the comparison between all these surrounding supplies, we also need to understand, is there a price gap in the market between resale and actually new launches?
This is also a very commonly talked about topic recently, because we realized that in terms of the resale value, it has went up quite a bit. So in terms of the price gap between resale and new launch, it seems to have really narrowed a lot more. This one is actually a chart from 2019 all the way to 2021. We compare the older price point, right? Comparing resale and new launch, the new development is about a 38% higher in terms of comparing with your resale prices.
So now actually we are comparing between Amber Park, the Esta and the Seaview, right? Amber Park was launched in 2018. Actually the gap between new launch and the surrounding supply is a normal 38%. So next we will look at Jewel at Bangkok versus Sengkang Grand. Sengkang Grand, when they were launched, is actually launched at 1750 PSF versus Jewel at Bangkok, which is 1350 PSF. That equates to a 30% gap.
So you can see that the gap narrowed down from 2018 all the way to 2021. The gap actually narrowed. So what is today's price gap in today's market? So right now we look at 𝐿𝐵𝐺𝑚 and 𝐶lemont Canopy, which is actually the more recent ones that we can do a comparison. 𝐿𝐵𝐺𝑚ont is actually the newest in that vicinity. This is actually the price point, and then this is actually 𝐶lemont Canopy. So if we look at this, the gap between the resale and the new home is actually just 9.2%. So just now we saw like 38% and then it narrowed to 30%. But then in 2021, we can see that the gap actually gets narrowed down. A differentiation of about 15 to 20% is quite the norm. But in current situation, right now we are looking at about actually just 10%.
So I think it's just a norm that there will be a price gap between new and old.
Definitely there will be a price gap.
But it's just how much? So now we will first compare between the 2-bed 1-bath comparison between Penrith 614 square feet versus Sterling Residence 2-bed 1-bath as well, 635 square feet. So the highest transacted for Sterling Residence was at 1.58. So now, assuming that Sterling is now harmonized, because actually Penrith is harmonized, so if you want to do an apple-to-apple comparison, Sterling Residence, if we want to harmonize it in a way, 635, we minus off 7%, so 591 square feet. So now we are taking the highest transacted price in Sterling Residence at 1.58. So divided by the 591, we are looking at 2673 PSF. Then this will actually help us to actually determine what is a safe entry price for Penrith.
So just now we mentioned that the norm today is about 10% difference. So between your resale, which is actually Sterling, and then versus your Penrith, which is actually a new development, there should be at least a 10% gap. If it's a 10% gap, it is something which is common and is acceptable in the market. We don't have the actual indicative for Penrith yet, but we are looking at averagely about 25, 26, thereabout in terms of the average pricing. That means to say, if let's say Penrith, right, you can get something at what Sterling transacted per square foot at 2.6 today, 2.673, or even up to 2.7, is something that is accepted in the market already. Because if let's say today you were to enter into a Sterling 635 square feet, right, the live-in size is estimated to be about 590 square feet, which is going to be very similar or even slightly smaller than what's upcoming Penrith at 614 square feet. So the size is very, very comparable. So that means to say transacted at 1.58 in terms of per square foot is 2.673. It is actually something which is already accepted in the market for Penrith. If let's say you can get something at 2.673. Because if I were to add in 10%, that means it's 2.673 plus another 260, we are looking at 3,001 plus per square foot, which is probably along the price range for Penrith, but the higher floors.
So in conclusion, meaning to say that, right, if today, if this price point is actually harmonized, it's 2673. Let's say this is launched at 25 to 26, meaning to say that there is no price gap between the resale and the new launch. That means new and old is exactly at the same price. That means there is no gap. So if let's say we look at if it's a 10% gap, which is the norm, that means it's also accepted.
It's supposed to be accepted.
It's supposed to be accepted.
That's why, as I mentioned, it's more of maybe the higher floors.
Let's say we really can get Penrith at 26 plus PSF. I think it's a very decent buy.
Because there is no difference at all in terms of the comparing the resale and the new development.
Exactly. So next we will go to the 2-bed premium, which is 678 square feet. 678 square feet, there is 2 stacks. One is at stack 1, which is the pool facing.
Over here.
Then the other one is at stack 7. That one is facing more of the HDB. So block 82 and 83 of Strathmore Avenue. Layout-wise, is dumbbell layout.
Tuck-in kitchen.
They have a space for dining as well. So I think in terms of layout, it's pretty good, say. So now again, we need to compare between the 2-bed, 2-bath. So a lot of times we use Sterling is because that is the closest comparison for now. Happened that Sterling at Residence actually do have a 2-bed, 2-bath at 678 square feet. Same size. Okay. So this 2-bed, 2-bath, again, we will have to take the price of Sterling's 2-bed, 2-bath at 1.818 million. That was already done and transacted and accepted in this area. So that equates to 2681 PSF. So if let's say again, because it's non-harmonized, so we need to minus off 7%, Sterling is actually at 630 square feet. So we take 1.818 divided by 630, we actually derive at 2886 PSF.
Same thing if let's say the price for Penrith is at about 27 to 28, we can say that no price gap between the resale and the new development because Sterling has already transacted. If we were to do this in terms of we harmonize the price and the size, right, it's actually at 2886. So today, if let's say Penrith is at 2007 to 2008, we can be very safe to say that there is actually no price gap for the new launch and the resale development. So if I were to add in the 10%, which is again the norm, at 28, actually it's on the higher side really. 3 plus, so it's actually really for the very high floors. But then again, we are not saying that you should even go for that because if let's say today you can get something at this price range, which is already accepted in the resale market, it can be very safe in terms of the price protection because it's already what is transacted and accepted in the resale market. So that's for 2-bed, 2-bath. So our recommendation in terms of whether or not do we go for the 2-bed, 1-bath or do we go for the 678, which is 2-bed, 2-bath, the first thing is that we want to also understand because 2-bedroom, most of the client will say that I want to get a 2-bedroom for rental investment. So we also want to understand how is the rental market in that area. So if you look at this estimated rent of 4.6 to 4.7, it is something that I actually derived from Sterling recent rental transaction. Okay, so again, because just now we mentioned Sterling has got 2-bed, 1-bath, 2-bed, 2-bath, which is similar size, but the rental transactions ranges from about 4.5 to 4.7. So it doesn't differ too much whether is it a 2-bed, 1-bath or a 2-bed, 2-bath. So that's point number 1. So for our estimated rent, if you look at this, right, 614, which is a 2-bed, 1-bath, I have put in an estimated rent of 4,006. But for 678, because it's a 2-bed, 2-bath, I added in another $150 just because with the additional bathroom. So again, how I get this is actually from the Sterling transaction. The rental transaction, it doesn't differ too much. One is at 4.6, one is at 4.7. Then, just now we mentioned that 2.7 to 2.8 per square foot in that vicinity in Sterling. If I were to put a price to this 2-bedroom type, I use an estimate of 2,007 per square foot. I derive a 1.66 mil and I 2-bed, 1-bath. And for the 2-bed, 2-bath, I derive a 1.8 mil. And the difference is about 200,000. Again, when I check back Sterling transactions back then when it's launched, the difference between 2-bed, 1-bath and 2-bed, 2-bath is also approximately about that 200,000. So this is again a norm for the pricing strategy in a way how developer price the different unit type. But because just now as I mentioned, the quantum differs about 200,000, but the rental is not a significant difference. It is just a couple of hundreds, maybe $100 to $200 difference. So it becomes that the rental yield for 2-bed, 1-bath and 2-bed, 2-bath definitely for 2 bed 1 bath, it will be on a higher side.
In terms of quantum and the rent is not a huge difference. Yeah.
So today, if let's say you are looking at just rental investment, of course, our proposal to you will be still looking at the 2 bed 1 bath because potentially the price difference could be about 200,000 difference. But with that, right, it doesn't affect too much on the rental. So the rental yield is actually slightly on the higher side for 2 bed 1 bath. But of course, we also understand there will be clients that is actually looking for 2 bed 2 bath for own stay. Especially maybe the upgraders. To begin with, they'll be looking at a 2 bedroom and they do require the 2 bed 2 bath. In terms of the rental yield, if I were to put a number to the yield, right, it's at 3.1, it is still not too bad. So this is actually something that you can also consider in terms of the 2 bed 2 bath, but it's going to be more for own stay purpose. If I look at 2 bed 1 bath and 2 bed 2 bath in terms of the average profit, again, it is not too much of a big difference. So 2 bed 2 bath, I would really say that it is more for own stay.
Yeah, if in terms of average, then of course it's just a mere difference of 50,000. But let's say in terms of the highest profit, 2 bed 2 bath actually can garner 480,000. So if let's say you have a bit more budget, you might want to buy for own stay at the same time investment, then maybe 2 bed 2 bath will be something that you can consider. But let's say it's pure investment just for rent, then 2 bed 1 bath.
So that's for 2 bedroom. So next, we're going to touch on the 3 bedroom analysis. For 3 bedroom, we have the smaller size, which is 786 square feet. It's getting very popular. Just to highlight that it's a harmonized development, which means to say that if you look at past sizes, right, it's about 800 over square feet. And then we also have got 850 square feet. So for 786, right, if we were to zoom into the layout,
the layout is good actually, I would say, because the master bath and also the kitchen all comes with window.
It's not very like a in-between kind of layout that you have got compromise on the windows ventilation. Also a proper enclosed kitchen, just that maybe it's slightly smaller. But the good thing is that all the 3 bedrooms and the living room faces the same direction. Because some of the layout, if it's a slightly smaller floor plate, right, you probably have got 1 bedroom over here, which is facing the back of the development. But this one, everything all faces the same direction for all the 3 bedrooms and the living.
As for facing wise, Stack 6 is facing the pool. Then, of course, Stack 12, you're facing more of the HDB. So if you're looking at Stack 12, then probably you want to go slightly higher in terms of floor level wise.
Then next, we have the 850 square feet. This one only have got 1 stack. If I were to look at these two, right, I don't see too much of a big difference, more of the entrance of the foyer area. But in terms of the layout, it's the same. Again, we are taking back Sterling to do a comparison because that's the best comparable in that vicinity. So Penrith 786, we are looking at Sterling 883. So same thing as what we did for 2 bedroom, right? For Sterling residence 883 square feet, the highest transacted is at 2.2 million. If we were to harmonize this 883, I less off a 7%, my live-in size is about 821 square feet. And I use the transacted price of 2.2 million to divide by the live-in size, I will get an estimated per square foot price of 2680. So again, this is actually very close to just now what we have discussed in the 2 bedroom. The Penrith prices, right, likely will also be around that 2627-ish. If today Sterling is already transacted in terms of the resale at 2680, it means that there is potentially no price gap between Penrith, a new development, if it's at 2627, and Sterling, which is already transacted at 2680.
Exactly.
So this is actually something which is actually a very safe price if you can get Penrith at similar per square foot to what is transacted in the resale market, which is that 2627.
So even if it's a 10%, also okay because that is a norm.
The norm, which is actually a 10% gap lah. So that will be about 3,001, but that will be, I think, on the higher floors. So if you're someone who really likes to have the very unblocked view, you want to go for the high floor, you will also understand that it's actually something which is still acceptable, potentially acceptable because it's just a 10% gap. Now we want to talk about the next layout, which is 850 square feet. The comparison for Sterling is still at 883 versus the Penrith 850. So same thing, if let's say we were to use the same calculation, right, we will be similar, deriving 2006 per square foot. The only thing is how the developer will price 786 and 850. Because if we were to go back to the site plan, if you look at this, 850 is the external facing, which is potentially no view lah. So that would mean to say that there could be a chance that the price point being slightly bigger will be very similar to the 786 because the per square foot may be potentially slightly lower because of the facing. If I'm the developer, I will definitely place the internal facing, pool facing at a higher per square foot price. So good chance that this stack, 786, could be quite similar price as compared to 850 this stack.
So if let's say you're looking at 786, between 786 and 850, I think on the launch day itself, the main key thing is that you need to take a few price points because I would think personally that the 850 developer will price upwards from the higher floors. So maybe we can take the 5th floor, 10th floor, like we shared in some of our videos. Yes.
How we actually derive the pricing on the launch day.
And then the price gap between the premium and the non-premium facing versus the 786. Then I think with that, it's easier for us to gauge which level or which facing should we go for. Let's say, for example, if I were to go for a high floor pool facing, which is the 786.
This one over here.
Yeah, and then it's actually very similar to 850 25th floor onwards. Then maybe I can consider something that is 850 25th floor.
Because your area is still bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in terms of view-wise, 25th floor, I will probably clear the HDB already. In terms of calculation-wise, I think there are a few numbers that you need to take note before considering which one to actually go for.
So it does not necessarily mean that smaller size means smaller quantum, so it's a better entry price in a way. That is actually for 3-bedroom, which is the 850 square feet. So the recommended choice for 3-bedroom, right? We would think that 786 is something that you can really look into, especially for yourself, if let's say you're looking at 2-bedroom. If let's say you are looking at 2-bedroom, but you have a little bit of budget, you may want to consider Penrith 786 square feet 3-bedroom.
Yes.
Now, why is that so? Because for Sterling residents, coincidentally, they also have a 2+ study at 786 square feet and it's already transacted at 1.98 million. So assuming Penrith, again, we take back 2,007 per square foot, at 786 square feet, we are looking at a quantum of 2.1, which means to say you top up just about 100 over 1,000 difference.
Yep.
You upgrade yourself from a 2+ study to a proper 3-bedroom. So for 786, we'll cater a lot for clients who are looking at 2-bedroom, but maybe have an option to upsize themselves to a 3-bedroom at 786. So that's for the recommended choice in terms of the 786 or 850. Then whether or not do we go for 850 will be just now what we have shared. We have to look at the actual pricing on the launch day.
Correct. So if let's say in terms of resale market, when these TOPs, buyers also will compare Sterling residents, I buy a 2+ study, it's about 2 mil. Then now I buy something that, assuming that the price is still the same, what if it goes up? So in terms of the price gap wise, a 2+ study versus a 3-bedroom, proper 3-bedroom with windows at the toilet, with windows in the kitchen, I think buyers will be quite straightforward. I will top up a bit, 100 over 1,000 for a proper 3-bedder instead of a 2+ study. So in terms of safe entry wise, in terms of whether it makes sense or not, I think Penrith 3-bedroom, the 786 do make sense.
I think this one is going to be quite a hot demand.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Then after that, we have got 3-bedroom premium as well. So just now was the compact, then now it's actually the premium. There's 2 sizes, 936 and 1066. So for 936, actually the floor plan comparing to just now the earlier two, it is almost similar in terms of the orientation. But because we don't have the dimension, like definitely somewhere is slightly bigger in certain areas. Maybe the kitchen area.
It's bigger,
I know
it's
already.
bigger.
The store.
No, not only that. I think if you look at the 1066, the living room versus the 936, the living room is bigger.
Yeah. So 936 as compared to just now the earlier two will be the additional store plus likely a bigger kitchen as well. For the 1066, right, wider living area.
And then the dining area as well. The dining area, normally when developers put it this way, right?
You have a certain depth. Kitchen also definitely bigger. So in terms of the facing wise, both of the stacks are actually internal facing. Be it the 936 or the 1066 is actually both internal facing. So then again, we are looking at the comparison with Sterling. This time round, we are taking the 980 square feet. So 936 and 980 square feet. Same thing when we do all the calculation, we derive a per square foot of 2744. If you look at the Sterling transacted price, be it a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, right, the per square foot pricing is around there.
Yes.
So again, coming back to what we want to emphasize again, if let's say Penrith is going to be at 2627, you're getting a new development at the resale pricing.
Exactly.
No gap. So that's for 936 square feet. Next, we look at the 1066 square feet. Sterling has got something very comparable, which is 1055. So if you look at the layout wise, actually it is quite similar.
Yeah.
Except that maybe Penrith, like what you mentioned, the living could be a little bit more wider. So again, we did the calculation, we harmonized Sterling.
This one has a bit of a mistake. It should be 1055 minus 7%.
No problem, we just do the calculation right now.
1055 minus 7%, that's 981. So 981, 2718 divided by 981. 2770.
2770.
Yes,
Very similar.
Yeah, so similar lah.
So again, it has been the 27 per square foot has been coming up lah, because that is really the accepted and transacted price in sterling. So again, Penrith at 2627 is going to be something very attractive.
Yep.
So that's for the 3-bedroom comparison. Our recommendation. So this time round, because for 3-bedroom, we are also looking at 3-bedroom potentially more for own stay. We don't look at the rental in terms of our recommendation. We don't look at the rental yield so much, but we look at the ROI. How we derive the ROI, we take the average profit and the average transacted price in sterling for 3-bed compact and 3-bed premium. So that's how we derive the ROI. So using a 25% down payment, what is our ROI? For compact, it's actually 126%.
Yep.
3-bed premium, 128.
It's actually not much of a difference. That means to say that this area has got demand for even the smaller bedrooms. So I think in terms of upgraders, they also want to buy back this area. They are okay with a slightly smaller size, but yet very functional.
Remember just now we were saying that for Penrith, we are also in the midst of the HDB cluster because in this area, we have a lot of new cluster of HDB.
Yep.
So cater really a lot for the upgraders as well. Yeah. Also, I see a size trend in terms of Penrith and sterling. So for sterling wise, we have got the 883, 980 and then 1055. So it's a gradual increase because there's actually 3 to 4 sizes, right? It caters for different groups of buyers. So similarly for Penrith now, right, we also have got the 786, which just now we have touched that can be potentially for 2-bedroom to upgrade themselves to 3-bedroom. Then we have got the 850, 936, and 1066. So again, it's a gradual increase in the size. So this size trend, right, is very similar to sterling, which means to say potentially, if let's say I were to look at sterling ROI in terms of the compact and premium, which is very similar, for Penrith, right, it could be also very similar ROI next time in future. So that's the comparison between Penrith and sterling for the 3-bedroom and 3-bedroom premium.
So that means for any of the buyers, if let's say you have budget constraint, I think the 3-bedroom, most of the sizes we can really consider.
Yes. Okay, 4-bedroom, there's actually 2 sizes, 1173 and 1281. So this is something very interesting. Just now we've seen the 3-bedroom, right? The layout are pretty much the same. We're also trying hard to see where's the difference, right? But for the 4-bedroom, it's really a big difference in terms of the layout. So for 1173, this is what we often call the portrait layout. So you come in and then this is a portrait layout, and then you have got the 4 bedrooms, and then you have a proper enclosed kitchen. Then when we look at the 1281, it's a totally different layout. We often say this is actually a wide living frontage. And this is something that a lot of the bigger unit type buyers will love to have this kind of layout because naturally when you step inside the house, right, everything else looks bigger. You've got more sliding door, you've got more light ventilation, more wind ventilation, everything else.
Because the view is different already. So once you go in, your view is like this.
Alright, so this is actually for 1281 square feet.
I think the facing is also pretty much important. So 1173, the facing wise, we're looking at stack 5.
Which is the external facing. The 11 is actually the pool facing.
Correct. This is Margaret Drive, so that is
the church. Yeah. So mid and above, you should have got nice views. So for the 1281, it's also very similar to just now the stack 5, which is also the external facing.
correct.
Okay, so this is actually the 2 different sizes for the 4-bedroom, 4-bed and 4-bed premium. So now we want to take another case study to understand the price difference for
Most developments.
Yes. If let's say you have a portrait and a white living layout. We are looking at Lentor Central Residences because in this development, they also have got 2 different floor plans for the 4-bedroom. So 1184 is actually very similar to our 1173. It's also the portrait kind of layout. But in order to have a white frontage living in Lentor Central Residences, the size of it is actually 1399 square feet, which is very much bigger in terms of the size. Then that's how you can actually have the white living frontage.
Actually, in most cases, if you compare portrait and the white frontage, right, Most of the developments, this is what they offer.
But because of the size difference, comparing these two, right, the size difference is actually 215 square feet. And that is why you can see a very significant price quantum difference at 2.5-ish, 2.6. But this one, if you want to have the white living frontage, right, you need to pay about close to 500,000 difference. So it's a 2.5 versus 3 million. So that's for Lentor Central Residences. This is actually something which is very commonly in most of the development between a portrait and a white living frontage. But what is interesting in Penrith is that just now we saw the price, we saw the size, right? It's 1173 versus a 1281, which means to say our size difference is only 100 square feet, which potentially, if I were to use 2008 per square foot,
as a calculation,
quantum-wise is actually just 300,000 difference. If I were to get something at 27 plus per square foot, my quantum difference is going to be even smaller. So 290 to 300,000 difference. In terms of our recommendation for Penrith 4-bedroom, if you are looking at 4-bedroom, we will actually recommend you the size of 1281 because at the smaller difference in terms of the price top up, you can get a layout that most of the 4-bedroom buyers would love to have.
More sought after, I would say. Portrait versus white frontage definitely in the resale market is a more sought after layout, especially the 4-bedrooms.
If it's a more sought after layout, naturally it equates to a higher demand next time when it TOP in the resale market. Because of the smaller difference in terms of the price gap, our recommendation for 4-bedroom will be the 4-bedroom premium 1281 square feet. That's the end of our analysis. So just to sum up, we talked about earlier from the start of the video, we want to discuss on the topic about the land size and also how prominent the development can actually be able to make a differentiation and to stand out in the midst of the surrounding. That's one of the points that we want to share. And then after that, we look at the Penrith layout, which we really thought that is actually something very decent, and also because of the very reputable developer. Most importantly, in terms of Penrith, if we were to look at something averaging about 26 to 27 per square foot, we have understood that this is something that has been transacted in the resale
market,
which is a comparable development, Sterling Residences, already transacted at this per square foot when we harmonize the floor plan. So that means to say there is potentially no price gap between the new development and the resale development. We hope that you have actually liked what we have actually shared in the whole analysis video, and please help us to like and subscribe because that will motivate us to do more analysis for you and to let you understand more in depth of how each individual development can work.
Is it suitable for me or not?
Yes. So that's all for today for Penrith. Thanks for watching our video. We'll see you in our next analysis video.
See you.
Bye.